Hello there, gamerinos and gamerinas. Welcome to UnicornStorm. This is Raidi, and today I'm going to tell you whether or not false myth is worth your while. I've received a key for this game, and it looked really sweet. It reminded me a bit of Terranigma or Secret of Mana, and so I gave it a try. And after a quite boring intro sequence, I had a lot of fun with it. It has nice pixel art, a soundtrack that's not too obnoxious, and a pretty nifty combat system. The story seems to be heavily focused on all the different characters in the game and your relationship with them. And yeah, overall I had a pretty good time with it. Just, it seemed I couldn't really get into the story. It seemed I constantly missed something. There were all those little things that didn't quite make sense. Characters acting in a way I couldn't really understand. Story development that seemed to come out of nowhere. Oh, and also, it was pretty hard to follow some cutscenes where only a backdrop of the scenery was shown and you had to read through text bubbles. And at first I thought that maybe I ran into a weird glitch that kinda made the characters invisible, but later I became aware of these little name tags at the bottom of the screen and how they changed according to who was talking. That still didn't make it any easier to follow the scene, but well, it made a bit more sense. And that was when I found out that I misjudged the game completely. So I was under the impression that this was just another fantasy JRPG like any other that might have been pretty good were it not for a pretty terrible English localization. But as it turns out, the game is just heavily censored. So when I asked for a key of this game, I wasn't aware that this is a hentai game. So yeah, I guess a content warning. This is a first impression review of a sex game. And the reason for why I couldn't really follow the story or had problems making sense of some of the cutscenes was that certain scenes as well as all the artwork has been removed from the game. So I went to the developer's website and got myself a uncensoring patch, and well, now the game works quite fine. Well, most of the time. Those weird cutscenes now display artwork of the talking character, so I can follow the conversation, and well, I won't show the missing scenes because I don't want my channel to be striked into oblivion by YouTube and the community. But at least now I understand the story. Because at first I was confused that I was playing this girl, and at some point everyone was referring to her as him. And well, I accepted that maybe I'm just playing a very feminine guy. Though some conversations were still pretty awkward. Also, I read some reviews where they talked about the main character being a gender-bended character or a futanari or whatever, and I didn't understand where they came up with that. Well, after seeing the game in its uncensored state, I came to understand that I was playing, in fact, a woman that got poisoned with a potion that turned her into a man, though her character artwork is still very female. But, well, now she's a guy and she's hungry for some fine young girls. And that gets us into the main gameplay loop. We are a member or the master of the Justice Adventurer Guild, and we have to take requests to help the people of the town we're in. And these requests kinda are the main story. During or in between quests, we can find side activities, which can be working in town to make some money, going fishing to make even more money, and to help other characters who, for example, need our fish to create new dishes, or we can hang out with the friends we make on the way, which, well, are all girls. The party system is pretty much a harem system. During the course of the story, we can find different party members, called heroines, that can join our main character, if we wish so, but only one at a time. And this heroine can help us in battle with unique abilities, but can also help our main character to relieve tension. All over the town we can find dating opportunities, and if we have the right heroine with us, we can start such a opportunity to have a special cutscene with them, which shows both of them together at some mundane activity, but also rewards the chosen heroine with some XP. We can also play mini-games together or go adventuring together to raise the level of a heroine. A story mission always has us investigate the town, which means we have to talk to the townsfolk and also find and activate story cutscenes, and in the end clear a dungeon. And dungeons, as well as battles, are the interesting part. Dungeons in this game are laid out like a board game, with a whole lot of spaces in a straight line. Some of the spaces are empty, and on some of them are enemies or treasure or traps, kinda like the main character. And we use cards to navigate the playing field. So each card contains a symbol for combat, but also a number and a second symbol for a special effect. The number indicates how many spaces we can move. So the higher the number, the more spaces we can move forward. If we land on an empty space, well, we can just play another card. If we land on a heart symbol, we get healed a little bit. And if we land on a treasure chest or a trap, we have to use another card with the corresponding symbol to clear that space and to avoid the trap or to receive some treasure. That's where the small symbol on the right upper corner of a card comes into play, because these symbols are the card's field effect. So if you play a card with a heart, you replenish a bit of your health. If you play a card with a crystal, you replenish a bit of your mana. And if you play a lockpick card while on a treasure space, you can open the treasure chest to get an item. The same goes for traps and the disarming symbol. When you step on a monster space, a battle will start. And battles also use your cards in a card-based combat system. The enemy and the player must choose 3 cards from their hand to initiate an attack sequence. And after placing the cards, the characters clash and, well, the better fighter wins. To determine who lands a attack, the game uses a rock, paper, scissors system. So there are 3 basic attacks as well as a counter move and a special attack. Basic attacks always trump a counter move always trumps a special attack, and special attacks always trump basic attacks. And basic attacks themselves work in a similar way, with high attacks beating straight attacks beating low attacks, and low attacks beating high attacks. So whoever wins in a rock, paper, scissors challenge lands the attack and inflicts damage on the opponent. This isn't all random though. Well, the hand you're dealt is. But since you can see your enemy's hand, as well as the cards they are playing, there is actually quite a bit of tactic involved. Sometimes you don't have the right cards, and then you have to decide when you take a loss. Because maybe you're able to defend against 2 out of 3 hits, but by playing the right cards, you can decide which hit to take, the weak one or the heavy one. If you manage to not get hit in a round, your support heroine will land a blow of her own. And sometimes you fight against enemies that can build up rage to activate special attacks, and you need to provoke a draw to cool them down. And you get a draw by playing the same kind of attack as the enemy. Aside from bad luck, there is another thing that might give you a hard time during battles. Because sometimes enemies can hide the cards they have played. You are still able to see their hand, and you are able to see the number, the strength of the card. But you can't see the type of effect. Sometimes an enemy has just one card of a specific strength, and then you will know instantly which card he has played. But sometimes he has, for example, 2 cards with a strength of 4. 1 counter and 1 special attack. And now you have to gamble a bit which card you play to attack them. Because if you play a standard attack, you are open for their special attack, but you will beat their counter. If you play a special attack of equal or higher strength, then you beat their special attack, but are open for their counter attack. And if you played a counter of equal or higher strength, well, then you don't have anything to fear from this clash, because you beat their counter as well as their special attack. So the battles are more or less puzzles. You do have RPG stats, so with a higher level you inflict more damage, but a solid tactic is more important than higher numbers, for the most part. You can find equipment to modify your stats, and so you can get a stronger attack and higher defense, but most of the time this comes with a penalty to your card hand, which means less options each round of combat. And with that, you beat up a bunch of foes, clear a number of dungeons, and watch a okayish story unfold, and spend time with some really interesting characters. Every one of the more important characters you come across is full of personality in a very anime way. You see them in all kinds of different situations, and aside from the intro sequence, it never got boring. I guess because the game wants to present each and every one as fuckable as possible, so the devs tried to really nail their personality. And I'd say it worked. I kinda enjoy all these silly little scenes, and I like most of the characters. Though I'm not sure about the hentai scenes. They are just dumb and distract from the main plot and the rest of the character stuff. I wouldn't have a problem with them if they were a reward for beating the story, so that at the end of the game you get a, I don't know, sex scene with your favorite heroine or something like that. But in this game, your character gets a hand job as well as a blow job after the tutorial. And you can just walk up to a heroine and fondle her breasts and lead her into the bedroom to get some kind of the sex. Which isn't really a bad thing, it was just too distracting for me. Though I'm not really the target audience. I'm not part of the hentai community. I don't play any of these dating visual novels, hentai games, whatever. So maybe I just don't understand how these games are supposed to work. Maybe this is just normal and expected. With that said, is False Myth worth your while? Well, if you're into hentai games, maybe. If you're not into hentai games, you might want to play this without the uncensored patch, but then the story gets confusing as hell. So I'd say as long as you're comfortable with pixelated eroticism and sex-changing heroines doing the kinky stuff, this might be something for you. If you don't mind all the actual gameplay and RPGing. But if you rather like your games clean, then maybe you'd want to give it a pass. The game as such is fine, and I did enjoy the dungeon crawling and the combat system, and since I'm huge into anime, I also did enjoy all the character stuff. But as far as I'm concerned, this game doesn't really need all that hentai stuff. If all of it were optional, I wouldn't really have a problem with it. But since some of it is mandatory and I have to watch my character getting jerked off, well, yeah, let's say that was not what I was expecting or wanting from the game. And before this gets any more awkward, I wish you adieu. Have a great day, and I hope to see you again on the next game.